Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour. High voltage drama in India's parliament premises over Union Home Minister Amit Shah's remarks on B.R. Ambedkar. BJP accuses Congress of misleading the public. 5 terrorists neutralised in ongoing operation by security forces in Jammu and Kashmir's Kulgam district. 2 injured security personnel in hospital. US sanctions 4 firms aiding Pakistan's ballistic missile program. Pakistan calls it unfortunate and biased. EU leaders to hold discussions in Brussels on Ukraine, Syria's power transition and impact of a new Donald Trump administration. The parliament premises on the penultimate day of the winter session witnessed high-voltage political drama. The BJP and Congress holding simultaneous protests targeting each other over Union Home Minister Amit Shah's remarks on B.R. Ambedkar in Parliament. BJP MPs staged protests on Parliament's premises accusing Congress of misleading the public. Congress demanded the resignation of Union Home Minister. The Congress MP scaled the wall, and the pushing to enter Parliament led to the fall of an MP who was taken to the clinic inside the Parliament complex for first aid. Speaking on protests on Ambedkar Row in Rajya Sabha, Vice President and Chairman Jagdeep Dhankar said, "We cannot allow the country to plunge into anarchy."
Our discussion under Rule 267, and I reiterate, has been consensual when both the ruling and the opposition have agreed. And in asserting so, I take recourse to what has happened earlier. I had indicated that in last 3 decades, this discussion has not been in double digit. We can't allow the country to be plunged in anarchy. Honorable members, we cannot allow the country to be plunged in anarchy.
A joint parliamentary committee has been formed to review the Constitution 129th Amendment Bill, which seeks to amend the Constitution to allow for simultaneous federal and state elections. The bill, which is a part of the One Nation, One Election initiative, will be reviewed by 31 parliamentarians, including 21 MPs from lower house, that is Lok Sabha, and 10 from upper house, that is Rajya Sabha, while BJP's PP Chaudhary will lead the committee. The JPC will submit a report to Lok Sabha on the first day of the last week of next session of Parliament. One Nation, One Election aims to reduce costs and improve governance. The timeline for implementing the bill suggests that the appointed date will follow the next Lok Sabha elections in 2029, with simultaneous elections scheduled to begin in 2034. From this point, the Lok Sabha's tenure will be fixed at 5 years, and state assemblies elected thereafter will have their terms end concurrently with the Lok Sabha's term. All right, and DD India's Anil Thomas is joining us live to give more details on what happened in the Parliament. Hi Anil, very good afternoon to you. High voltage drama on Parliament premises on the penultimate day of intersession. What happened exactly?
Well, good afternoon, Siddharth. Well, it's the penultimate day of the winter session of Parliament. Many expected that the bonhomie that one had seen, especially in the 4-day discussion in the upper house and lower house, to continue. And I think the issue of, the face-off this Parliament session started off with Adani Soros story, now moving to the Ambedkar face-off between the BJP and the opposition. Opposition, now all opposition parties coming together on this, I think has played out in a much, I would say, in the citadel of commerce, citadel of democracy.
Okay.
This kind of behavior was unexpected. This kind of face-off or standoff was unexpected that one would see in Parliament. But I think both parties have stood their ground. The BJP claims that it is misinterpretation of misinterpretation of how what Amit Shah said on the floor of the House, especially in his concluding speech on the 75 glorious years of the drafting of Constitution. The Congress claims it's an insult to Baba Ambedkar and demanding a public apology there from the Home Minister. I think the Prime Minister yesterday said set this particular confusion to rest when he backed the Home Minister. And I think Congress feels, or the opposition feels, that they're losing out on a point, especially to score brownie points, because it's got the opposition on the indie bloc together again rejuvenated. And I think that's where the opposition has been gungo about it and have been trying to get some kind of mileage out of this particular situation. But I think two MPs getting injured, landing in hospital now, fallout of which could also lead into an FIR, where there is a likelihood of an FIR being lodged against the LOP Rahul Gandhi. So all in all, I think things going from bad to worse. It was a frosty morning, a misty morning that one saw, but I think that frosty feeling very much evident inside Parliament, with no headway being given by any of them, and we don't see any headway being made further, at least in the remaining of today and the remaining of tomorrow, especially when it comes to any kind of business being transacted.
Indeed. Anil, and what next can we expect now?
Well, especially when it comes to this particular standoff that is there, it was peaceful demonstrations that both sides had done. The opposition claims that the air MPs were not allowed to enter Parliament. The BJP MPs claim that there was a pathway that was left for the Congress MPs to enter, the opposition MPs to enter, who didn't want to be part of the protest. And it also led to a lot of confusion. There were many opposition MPs who thought that it's a regular procedure that you will see the opposition MPs protesting outside just before Parliament begins. So many thought that, this was a part of that. They never expected BJP to protest. See, the protest was very fine. It was peaceful. What followed with the injury to the MPs and the fallout that's had with the likelihood of a FIR coming into play, is serious trouble, because that little bit of bonding that we had seen that existed between the opposition and the treasury benches have now evaporated. And, the speaker and the chairman will have a tough time, now getting things together. Luckily for them, we are in that fag end of the winter session of Parliament. So, whatever problems that these two sides have put together or two sides have faced will not be evident, because the Parliament is going to end with another day of functioning. So all in all, I would say things could have been managed in a much better fashion. You will have a lot of CCTV footage that will come into play, because the opposition has now lodged a complaint with the speaker with regards to a security lapse that took place at the Makhardwar in Parliament. So there is going to be a lot of fallout. I think we'll have to wait and watch how things play out.
Definitely.
But this was uncalled for, and especially in the citadel of democracy, when the world is watching how Indian democracy is moving forward, this kind of steps by the opposition clearly puts a bad taste in your mouth, as this session winds up.
Definitely something which is really uncalled for, but we'll have to wait and see what happens next. Thank you so much, Anil. We'll leave it there. 5 terrorists have been neutralised by the security forces during an ongoing gunfight in Kulgam district of India's Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The operation was launched early this morning following specific intelligence about the presence of terrorists in the area. During the cordon and search operation, the terrorists opened fire, triggering a fierce exchange of gunfire. 2 security personnel also sustained injuries in the encounter, who are currently undergoing treatment. The operation is still underway and further details are awaited. All right, and DD India correspondent Shabir Dar is joining us from Srinagar. Hi Shabir, to begin with, just tell us the situation right now.
Yeah, the situation is under control. The encounter is ongoing in the Kulgam district, which is around 75 kilometers from Srinagar. And as we know that 5 terrorists have been gunned down in this encounter. We started early morning when the security forces have, tip up that the militants are hiding in the area, and they, started a search operation which resulted into the encounter. The militants fired from their side, and the security forces retaliated, and which, ensued into an encounter, and the security forces had a big success at the end. 5 terrorists have been gunned down. The identities of these terrorists are yet to be ascertained. The police, the security forces and army have cordoned the area. They are searching to see whether, their accomplices might be there. And, the entire area has been, the civilians from the area have been evacuated to ensure that there is no collateral damage.
Okay.
The civilians, have been given a free passage to the safety. Remember, this is the ongoing, effort by the security forces to ensure that the militancy and the terrorism in Kashmir is wiped out. And, as we have seen that from past many months, the security forces have launched and, a manhunt, a huge, strike against the militants to ensure that the Kashmir remains free from the terrorism. And those people who are supporting and, encouraging the terrorism in Kashmir, we are giving a befitting reply.
Okay, yes. Shabir, since this is developing, we'll keep taking updates on this from you. But as of now, we leave with that. Thank you so much. Now, at least 13 people were killed and 99 rescued after an Indian Navy speedboat crashed into a ferry off the Mumbai coast on Wednesday. According to official statement, the Indian Navy craft lost control while undertaking engine trials in Mumbai harbour due to engine malfunction. As a result, the boat collided with a passenger ferry which subsequently capsized. The ferry was transporting passengers from Gateway of India to Elephanta Island. The deceased include a naval officer and 2 people from the original equipment manufacturer on board the naval craft. An inquiry has been initiated to determine the exact cause of the incident. Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed grief over the mishap. In a tweet, he said, and I quote, "Condolences to the bereaved families. I pray that the injured recover soon. Those affected are being assisted by the authorities. An ex gratia of ₹2 lakh from Prime Minister's National Relief Fund for the next of kin of each deceased in the boat mishap in Mumbai. The injured would be given ₹50,000. 28 Indian fishermen from Tamil Nadu's Tirunelveli district have returned home following successful diplomatic efforts that led to their early release from detention in Bahrain. The fishermen, who were arrested in September, had their 6-month sentence reduced to 3 months following a swift legal appeal. Throughout their detention, the Indian embassy in Bahrain provided comprehensive support, including consular assistance and basic necessities, while facilitating communication between the fishermen and their families. Indian Minister of State for Health, Anupriya Patel, has stated that the medical device sector is recognized as a sunrise sector due to its growth potential driven by healthcare needs, innovation, government support and market opportunities. The sector is valued at $14 billion and is expected to reach $30 billion by 2030. Anupriya Patel was addressing 21st CII Health Summit 2024.
We have been taking several initiatives from time to time, including our regulatory reforms and programs and schemes like PLI or the medical devices part of the new scheme that has come up for the strengthening of this industry, the PRIP scheme, the MedTech Mitra. These are very important initiatives which have been taken by the government and our department to ensure that we give the much desired boost in the fillip to this industry. And I'm sure with the collective efforts of all these stakeholders, which includes the government, along with our industry, our healthcare providers, our researchers, academia, everybody, we can transform India into a MedTech powerhouse.
Let's take a look at other stories making news. The Confederation of Indian Industries annual meet, the Changemakers Conclave, shines a spotlight on SBM 2.0 and solid waste management. This event celebrated exemplary practices in waste management, bringing together representatives from 100 urban local bodies across 24 states and union territories. These changemakers have driven remarkable transformation, showcasing the power of sustainable solutions for a cleaner India. India has climbed 11 spots to rank 49th in the Network Readiness Index 2024 by the Porcelains Institute. Advancements in AI mobile networks and broadband are driving ease of living and boosting India's position in global tech leadership. In a historic move, India conducted its first satellite tagging of a Ganges River dolphin in the northern Indian state of Assam under Project Dolphin. The initiative aims to study migratory patterns and habitat use to aid conservation efforts. Masali, a village in Western Indian state of Gujarat has become country's first 100% solar-powered border village located 40 kilometers from Pakistan border. Under Prime Minister Surya Ghar scheme, solar rooftops have been installed on 119 houses, generating more than 225 kilowatts of electricity in the village. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Israel says it struck military targets belonging to Yemen's Houthi rebels. Vietnamese authorities are investigating a deadly fire in Hanoi that killed 11 people. 1.5 tons of cocaine worth over $50 million seized in Colombia. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Israel today said that it struck military targets belonging to Yemen's Houthi rebels after intercepting a missile fired by a group. Israeli army spokesman that IDF conducted precise strikes on Houthi military targets in Yemen, including ports and energy infrastructure in capital Sana'a.
Precise strikes on Houthi military targets in Yemen, including ports and energy infrastructures in Sana'a, which the Houthis have been using in ways that effectively contributed to their military actions. Israel will not hesitate to act in order to defend itself and its citizens from the Houthis' attacks. The Houthis have been carrying out attacks against Israel in violation of international law, and the Houthi regime is a threat to peace and security in the region.
Earlier, the Israeli military said that sirens sounded in numerous areas in central Israel after a missile was launched from Yemen. The IDF said that missile was intercepted by the Israel's Iron Dome defenses before crossing into Israeli territory. Meanwhile, the United States has expressed optimism on reaching a ceasefire in Gaza, with Secretary of State Antony Blinken noting that Hamas is showing more flexibility due to losses inflicted on its patron Iran. Blinken, repeating an assessment made last week when he paid his 12th visit to the West Asia since the conflict began, added that ending the conflict was in Israel's interest and an agreement on post-conflict governance was necessary. The US, along with Arab mediators, is working to conclude an agreement between Israel and Hamas to end the 14-month-long conflict in Gaza. Sources say that potential deal could be signed soon involving a ceasefire and the release of hostages held in Gaza in exchange for prisoners held by Israel. This comes as CIA Director William Burns was in Doha for talks with Qatari Prime Minister to discuss bridging the remaining gaps between Israel and Hamas. After Assad's ouster from Syria, global diplomatic attention has shifted towards the formation of a transitional government. The international community has expedited efforts to establish peace and stability in the war-torn nation. Suggestions are pouring in from the UN headquarters to member nations, ranging from holding democratic elections to removing rebels from the US list of terrorist individuals and organizations. Here's a report by DD India's Akhilesh Soman.
With a view to transform the nation from an authoritarian to a modern democratic dispensation, the United Nations has urged Syria's new rulers to hold free and fair elections.
There is a lot of hope that we can now see the beginning of a new Syria. A new Syria that, in line with Security Council Resolution 2254, will adopt a new constitution that will ensure that there is a social contract, a new social contract for all Syrians, and that we will have free and fair elections.
The UN suggestion is to accommodate several rebel groups in Syria through a democratic process, making a UN-monitored solution potentially more effective. Turkey's President Erdogan has urged the US and other nations to lift sanctions on Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, popularly known as HTS, and remove the group from the terrorist list. HTS was previously linked to Al-Qaeda, but severed ties with the terrorist network in later years. US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has cautioned HTS to learn from the Taliban's continued global isolation due to its rigid religious views and refusal to adopt democratic and liberal policies for Afghan citizens, minorities and women. France is working to mediate between Turkey and the Kurds in northeastern Syria. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot said on Wednesday that the Kurds must be part of any political transition process. Visiting UN humanitarian chief Tom Fletcher called for a significant boost in aid for Syria, noting that 7 in 10 people require urgent assistance due to dire living conditions. As part of his visit, Fletcher met with the representatives of the HTS, including its leader Ahmad al-Shara and interim Prime Minister Mohammed al-Bashir. Positive feedback from these meetings has raised hope about the group's willingness to engage constructively. Another pressing issue in Syria is the desire of millions of Syrian refugees abroad to return to their homeland after years of displacement. They are around 7 million in number and scattered across countries like Turkey, Germany, Iraq, Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, and even Austria. However, the UN has urged them to regulate their return, advocating a gradual and organized process. A positive sign is that the rebels who are now in control of the war-torn nation appear to be accepting the realities of governance and international expectations. They have accepted they are exhausted from years of conflict and seem open to external advice. In a symbolic development, the country's new administration has kept key institutions running, with a commercial flight departing from Damascus airport to Aleppo on Wednesday, the first since Assad's removal and his subsequent flight to Russia. With HTS stepping up diplomatic contacts with countries that once viewed Assad as a pariah and establishing a transitional leadership that will govern the country until March 1st, hopes are rising that Syria will embrace modern governance while avoiding obstructionist sectarian laws. So the international community is watching closely how Syria will navigate this critical transition. Akhilesh Suman's report for DD India.
The 27 EU leaders are gathering in Brussels on Thursday for a one-day summit with a packed agenda, including discussions on Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Syria's spar transition, ongoing protests in Georgia, reforming migration policy, and preparing for the potential impact of a new Donald Trump administration. This is the first summit led by Antonio Costa since he took over as president of the European Council on December 1st. French President Emmanuel Macron will be absent due to Cyclone Chido's aftermath in Mayotte and will be represented by German Chancellor Olaf Scholz.
Very much high on the agenda is to make sure that the President, his team, Ukraine are in the best possible position one day, when they decide so, to start the peace talks. And that means that we have to do everything now to make sure that when it comes to air defense, when it comes to other weapon systems, that we make sure that we provide whatever we can.
Ukrainian President Zelensky has said that his meetings in Brussels with NATO's chief and European leaders were a good opportunity to discuss security guarantees for Ukraine for today and for tomorrow. He also told reporters that it was very important on his two-day trip to Brussels for him to meet Ukraine's partners and for them to have a united position on how to strengthen Ukraine as it battles Russia.
I think it's a very good opportunity to speak about security guarantees for Ukraine for today and for tomorrow, as you said. Well, almost everything said. But it's really very important that to use these 2 days in Brussels to meet with all our partners and to have the same, what is very important, not divided, the same joint position of Europe.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Wednesday met his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron in Brussels on the sidelines of European Union Western Balkans Summit. During their meet, both the leaders discussed on possible deployment of French troops in Ukraine as a means to help achieve a stable peace. The meeting comes at a crucial time as Ukraine urges its allies to strengthen support both on the battlefield and diplomatically before any potential talks with Russia. Taking to X, Zelensky said that Ukraine and France share a common vision that is reliable. Guarantees are essential for a peace that can truly be achieved. Britain announced on Thursday that it would send an additional £225 million or $286 million of military equipment to Ukraine. The package includes £92 million for equipment to bolster Ukraine's navy, £68 million for air defense equipment including radars, decoy, land and equipment and counter-drone electronic warfare systems, £26 million to provide support and spare parts for systems previously delivered to Ukraine, £39 million to provide more than 1,000 counter-drone electronic warfare systems and for joint procurement of respirators and equipment to enhance the protective capabilities of Ukraine's armed forces. Britain also said that it would offer more military training to Ukraine. The World Bank too approved $2.05 billion fund to Ukraine on Wednesday. The newly allocated funds from the World Bank includes the first grant from a new $20 billion loan fund for Kiev that is backed by income from frozen Russian sovereign assets. The new package aimed at boosting Ukraine's financial and economic stability also includes World Bank financing of $1.05 billion that is enhanced with loan guarantees from a trust fund supported by Japan and Britain. In the face of Donald Trump's announcement to reduce defense funding to Ukraine, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that our aid to Kiev's defense forces have increased job back in U.S. The comments were made during an event hosted by Council on Foreign Relations in New York.
It's important to explain to people the money that we've spent defending Ukraine, most of that was spent here in the United States, in our own defense industrial base, manufacturing, building stuff that the Ukrainians need to defend themselves. Good American jobs have been a result of that.
As Russia-Ukraine conflict escalates, Russian air defense systems repelled a Ukrainian attack on Thursday as 10 missiles targeted Rostov region of southern Russia. The attack started a fire at the Novoshantinsk oil refinery. That was the second time in 6 months that the facility had been hit. Meanwhile, in overnight retaliatory attack, Russia launched 85 drones targeting Ukraine on Thursday. 40 imitator drones out of the total did not reach their targets and 45 others were shot down. No damages or casualties in Kiev were reported by Ukraine's officials, though explosions could be heard as the city's air defenses attempted to shoot down the drones with small arms fire. At least 100 North Korean troops deployed to Russia have been killed with another 1,000 injured in combat against Ukrainian forces in intense fighting in the Kursk region. This has been claimed by a South Korean lawmaker on Thursday, citing the country's spy agency. The heavy losses are attributed to the lack of experience by North Korean troops in drone warfare and unfamiliarity with the open terrain where they are taking part in the battle. South Korean Member of Parliament Lee Seong-kyun told reporters after a closed-door briefing by the National Intelligence Service to Parliament.
National Intelligence Service reported that there has been at least 1,000 deaths of North Korean troops and the injured are approaching 1,000. NIA said that the heavy losses are attributed to North Korean troops, lack of experience in drone warfare, and they were mobilized as a frontline storm troops in open terrain which they are unfamiliar with.
돌격대 역할로 소모되고 있다는 점과 최소
And let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Germany may expand its armed forces to 230,000 troops, surpassing the current 203,000 goal, says Defense Minister Boris Pistorius. This move aligns with NATO's push for increased military readiness post-Ukraine invasion. NATO is further set to agree new and more demanding targets for the number of allied forces and weapons in 2025. Vietnamese authorities are investigating a deadly fire in Hanoi that killed 11 people on December 18th. The suspect confessed to igniting the blaze following a staff dispute. Police report 7 rescues and 2 hospitalizations as inspections continue. Colombian authorities intercepted a vessel near Buenaventura carrying 1.5 tons of cocaine worth over $50 million. 3 men were rescued and detained. The boat, destined for Central America, was found with packages floating nearby, officials confirmed. And still to come on DD India News Hour. United States has slapped sanctions on 4 Pakistan ballistic missile entities. Stay tuned for an in-depth analysis of this. French President Emmanuel Macron visits cyclone-hit Mayotte to assess devastation.
Pollution of all types across the globe is a huge problem. But what is the solution to this? Does it require individual efforts, community action, or state interference? Let's take a look at some of the possibilities, challenges and opportunities.
They have to segregate their waste, manage their organic waste within their premises as far as possible. They have to hand over the rest of the waste, the residual waste, to the authorized waste collector.
When the local administration saw what I had done, it decided to build the drainage system you see here, connecting the whole area to it.
Trees are our lifesavers. They give us oxygen, and it's unfair to harm them by hammering iron nails into them just for the sake of ads.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and a quick recap of headlines. High voltage drama in India's parliament premises over Union Home Minister Amit Shah's remarks on B.R. Ambedkar. BJP accuses Congress of misleading the public. US sanctions 4 firms aiding Pakistan's ballistic missile program. Pakistan calls it unfortunate and biased. EU leaders to hold discussions in Brussels on Ukraine, Syria's spar transition and impact of a new Donald Trump administration. The United States imposed new sanctions related to Pakistan's long-range ballistic missile program, including on the state-owned defense agency National Development Complex that oversees the program. The State Department said that the United States is designating 4 entities for sanctions, which targets proliferators of weapons of mass destruction and their means of delivery, in light of the continuing proliferation threat of Pakistan's long-range missile development. In addition to the NDC, 3 other entities are Akhtar and Sons Private Limited, affiliates International and Rockside Enterprise, all of which are based in Karachi, while the NDC is in Islamabad. The sanctions are part of ongoing US efforts to curb the spread of missile technology and prevent further escalation of the global proliferation threat. As a result of these sanctions, the entities involved will face financial and trade restrictions, including being cut off from US markets and resources. The US government has stated that these measures are necessary to address the growing risks associated with the development of long-range ballistic missiles in Pakistan. Pakistan's foreign ministry said in a statement that the US action was unfortunate and biased and would harm regional stability. To discuss more on this, I have been joined by Rajiv Narayan, Senior Associate Research Fellow, IDSA. Sir, a very warm welcome to the broadcast, first of all. A very good afternoon to you. Now, the United States has imposed new sanctions on Pakistan's long-range ballistic missile program. A country, sir, that has been accused of providing safe haven to terrorist groups, and also a country whose economy is in shambles. How do you analyze this move?
Look, first let us talk the legal aspect, then we'll come to political and other strategic aspects.
Okay.
Technically, it is a sanction for proliferation of ballistic missiles. That is fine, but somehow in this order, United States has not mentioned whether it was getting assistance from other countries, especially China. The past, the organization which has been put under sanction, that is National Development Complex, was accused of seeking assistance from China. So actually this proliferation network, which we all know and which we all talk about, which involves Pakistan, China, many other countries, including North Korea, it is still alive. And at least it is good that United States has recognized through this sanction that this is still flourishing, and the entities, organizations are getting assistance technologies from this network. So this is basically proliferation related network. Before that, in October and November also, it is just, we should see it as a continuity, not an isolated case, not an isolated incident. And October also, several Pakistani organizations were put on the entity list. Chinese organizations were also put on the entity list. And very interestingly, about ballistic missiles program of Pakistan, it is not foreign policy. There are two concerns which are evoked or revoked to impose sanction. One is national security and second is foreign policy oriented. It's been proliferation is talked about. So this order is not clear, and it has just mentioned Shahin missiles, which has got a range of more than 2,750 kilometers. And generally, Pakistan talks that this adds to the full spectrum deterrence of the country. But October, the same Pakistani establishments was targeted, ballistic missiles were targeted, and United States said that it is a security threat to United States also. So that is quite interesting. When sanctions were imposed on Pakistan, it was considered, or it was viewed in terms of India-Pakistan binary. So at least United States is moving away from that, and it finds that Pakistani missiles, Pakistani nuclear weapons program is also a threat to United States. So that is a very significant development. And of the Pakistani entities are on the part.
Do you think the sanction is imposed just because of that?
No, because this is a continuity. We should not see it in an isolated case. This is what I said. That Pakistani's missiles are being perceived by United States as a security threat to United States. This is very significant. And of the Pakistani entities which are relating to ballistic missiles are already on the United States entity list. This is Bureau of Industry and Security, it's Department of Commerce organization. Which is this sanctions, this order, I should say, has been imposed by Department of State, which generally looks after munition related or proliferation related missiles.
Correct.
Bureau of Industry and Security looks after all the dual use technology related sanctions or any curbs. So this is what I just want to point out. You have any other question?
Yeah, definitely, sir. A list of them, provided that we have time for that. But US is imposing military and economic sanctions on Pakistan since 1947. So I mean, this is not something which is new. And apart from that, what is the impact of these sanctions on the organizations in Pakistan that are targeted? Also, sir, can they still operate in other countries?
No, this is like you are quite right that sanctions, or I instead of saying sanctions, of course, sanctions were imposed on Pakistan, but curbs continued. More than sanction word, I would like to use curbs. Technology restrictions, technology regulation was imposed. In fact, this technology regulation relating to ballistic missiles is still continuing. It did not go away after some sanctions were removed after 2001 incident when India and Pakistan both were given some relaxation. This is one thing. So this has been continuing. This sanctions or this curve has been continuing on Pakistan because under the US law, no country, including India, cannot get any ballistic missile technology or ballistic missile item and even nuclear weapons development item. So that is fine. But this particular sanctions is for proliferating. This is important. Details are awaited. Once the register publishes the notice, then we can get more details. But earlier details which I am talking about is being considered a shift. Because now US is finding that in Pakistan is threatening it. And that is significant. It is not just India and Pakistan. It is the world and Pakistan. That is quite significant. And second, very interesting dimension I would like to point out.
Yeah, please.
When sanctions, this notice was issued by Department of State, there was another notice was issued on India, and that was so positive. That was about space program cooperation.
Okay.
State of affairs, India and Pakistan had reached vis-a-vis United States. Now United States is seeing Pakistan as a country of concern, while India is being seen as a partner country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And very quickly, sir, Pakistan's foreign ministry is called the US's actions unfortunate and biased. Are they in a position to say so? How do you react to that?
Look, this was routine. I mean, there was nothing great about it.
Okay.
It always tries to locate it or contextualize it in South Asia and say that it is question mark on its sovereignty. Wow, I have not understood. It has condemned that it is missiles Pakistani's strategic capabilities are required for preserving peace and stability in South Asia. This is the most destabilizing country, a rogue country, terrorist country, and how come they are justifying that for maintaining stability in the region?
That's why I asked, are they even in position to say so?
Yeah, so it is good at least United States is waking up.
Yeah.
Should continue to do so because this network, this proliferation network, which once they had given the certificate, has ceased to exist. At least they are realizing that it is still existing, and the problems are not only being posed to India but to the world, and including United States. So this is a very, very significant development in
definitely. All right, sir. Thank you so much for joining in on the broadcast. Much appreciated. French President Emmanuel Macron arrives in Mayotte, one of the French overseas territories, on Thursday to assess the extent of damage in Mayotte caused by Cyclone Chido, termed as the strongest storm to ever hit Mayotte in over 9 decades. The cyclone wrought destruction at a shocking rate. French rescue and relief teams rushed to provide aid and relief to the survivors. Efforts are being made to clear roads of debris and provide drinking water, as water supplies have taken the worst hit. Authorities have confirmed 22 deaths in the Indian Ocean archipelago, with fear of numbers rising as rescue teams are still searching for survivors. Australia has sent a team of medical experts and search and rescue team on 2 military planes after a request from the government to help in the rescue and relief efforts, along with French teams who arrived a day earlier along with food, water and other essential aids. After a 7.3 magnitude earthquake laid most of the Vanuatu flat, rescuers are still looking for survivors and provide relief in every possible way. Hospitals are overwhelmed with large number of survivors waiting to get medical aid. The high magnitude quake downed power and communication and destroyed water reservoirs, causing major health concerns, especially for children. Although people are more concerned and asking for water, even buying water bottles, as power and communication become their second priority. So far, government has confirmed 14 deaths, but the death toll is feared to rise as rescue efforts are still underway. In India, the Meteorological Department has issued orange alert for fog in Delhi for Thursday and Friday as air pollution in the national capital reaches the hazardous category after air quality index crossed 450 on Thursday. Some places are even nearing 500 mark, with pungent air and dense smog deteriorating the air even further, making it hazardous for all with no respite. Elsewhere in the northern region, cold waves continue sweeping the region with temperatures plunging below -10 degrees. In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, in many areas, temperature has gone even below -15 degrees, with lakes and water bodies freezing and snow covers all over. The temperature is expected to continue its chilling streak in North India, with cold waves and fog engulfing most areas. The Dubai Shopping Festival is celebrating its 30th anniversary with a spectacular display of over 1,000 synchronized drones lighting up the winter skies. Running from December 6 to January 12, the festival features nightly drone shows above Blue Waters Island and Jumeirah Beach residents, creating intricate formations against Dubai's skyline. A special commemorative show highlighting the festival's growth is being held until December 26, chronicling 3 decades. In fact, the festival's evolution, besides the drone performances, the festival offers citywide shopping deals, live performances and cultural exhibitions. These shows have become a major attraction, showcasing Dubai's blend of technology, entertainment and retail. Still to come on DD India News Hour. US Federal Reserve cuts rates by 25 basis points, bracing for policy uncertainty. Indian cricketer Ravichandran Ashwin receives a warm welcome as he arrived to his hometown in Chennai. Indian women team all set to take on West Indies in the third and final T20 today.
Pollution of all types across the globe is a huge problem. But what is the solution to this? Does it require individual efforts, community action, or state interference? Let's take a look at some of the possibilities, challenges and opportunities.
They have to segregate their waste, manage their organic waste within their premises as far as possible. They have to hand over the rest of the waste, the residual waste, to the authorized waste collector.
When the local administration saw what I had done, it decided to build the drainage system you see here, connecting the whole area to it.
Trees are our lifesavers. They give us oxygen, and it's unfair to harm them by hammering iron nails into them just for the sake of ads.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has lauded the role of engineers in making India self-reliant in defence sector. Addressing the Indian National Academy of Engineering Annual Convocation 2024 at Indian Institute of Technology in Delhi, Rajnath Singh said that India has a glorious history in the field of science and technology. Singh stressed on the importance of role of engineers in making India a developed nation by 2047.
भारत बेहद तेज गति से डिफेंस सेक्टर में सेल्फ रिलायंस की ओर अपने कदम आगे बढ़ा चुका है। मॉडर्न वारफेयर जितनी तेजी से बदल रहा है, उसे देखते हुए हाई एंड टेक्नोलॉजी को अपनाना हमारे लिए समय की आवश्यकता है कि भारत टेक्नोलॉजी के मामले में पूरे वर्ल्ड को लीड करेगा। पता नहीं क्यों मेरा यह पक्का विश्वास है।
US President-elect Donald Trump urged Republican lawmakers to reject a cross-party deal to avert a fast-looming US government shutdown. Starting down a Friday night deadline to fund federal agencies, party leaders in Congress had agreed on a continuing resolution to keep the lights on until mid-March and avoid having to send public workers home without pay over Christmas. Trump holds huge sway over Republicans, and his intervention makes it almost certain that the bill will fail. The current federal debt is $36.2 trillion, and Congress has raised the limit more than 100 times to allow the government to meet its spending commitments. The next extension was not part of the shutdown negotiations, and demand took lawmakers by surprise. Government departments and services from national parks to border control will begin shuttering Saturday unless an agreement is reached. The US Central Bank has cut interest rates by 25 basis points for a third time, despite concerns that the move will deliver a boost to the economy that risks inflation. The Fed cut rates by 25 basis points to the 4.25% to 4.5% range, and its summary of economic projections indicated that it will make rate cuts totaling a half percentage point by the end of 2025. The Fed's 19 policymakers projected that they will cut their benchmark rate by a quarter point just twice in 2025, down from their previous estimate in September of 4 rate cuts.
The outlook is pretty bright for our economy. We have to stay on task, though, and continue to have restrictive policies so that we can get inflation down to 2%. The U.S. is not feeling really the effects of geopolitical turmoil, but we are certainly at a time of elevated geopolitical turmoil, and it remains a risk.
Germany's ailing economy and that of 8 other European countries has come under scrutiny of the European Union. Brussels fear these member states' economies woes the economics, woes could hurt the entire bloc. Joining us with more is DW correspondent Chiponda Shimbelu in Berlin. Hi Chiponda, tell us more.
Thanks for having me. Well, the European Commission has an early warning system for identifying countries whose economies could potentially destabilize the whole bloc's economic system, and that is the Alert Mechanism report. And in the 2025 edition, the EU has identified Germany as one of 9 countries that experienced what it calls macroeconomic imbalances this year. Now, other major European economies on that list include Italy, the Netherlands, and Sweden. Brussels looks for warning signs of economic issues from various macroeconomic indicators, including unemployment rates, debt levels, credit flows, and property prices. Now, they help Brussels identify potential problems, such as a high current account deficit for a country, or explosive real estate prices that would potentially spill over and have a negative impact on other EU member states.
So what does this mean for the countries now?
Well, those countries that are named in the report will have to undergo an in-depth analysis of their economies in the first half of 2025. And that means that we will hear more about the 9 countries named, and the European Commission will also assess possible policy needs. Now, in the current report, Brussels points out that inflation remains a challenge in some EU countries. And despite the fact that it is now closer to the EU's target inflation of 2%, services inflation remains elevated. And that is especially the case in some countries, including here in Germany, where higher energy prices continue to influence inflation. And Brussels also says the global economic landscape is complicated. And while the report doesn't mention incoming US President Donald Trump or the prospect of tariffs or trade restrictions, it does say that the potential economic disruptions could pose significant challenges. And there, Germany, which is of course the EU's biggest economy, accounting for just under 25% of the bloc's GDP, is extremely vulnerable. That is, of course, largely due to its export-dependent economy.
All right, Chiponda Shimbelu, thank you so much for your analysis. And you're watching DD India News. Our time now for sport. We'll begin with how Ravichandran Ashwin was welcomed. A day after announcing his retirement from international cricket, Ravichandran Ashwin received a warm welcome after he arrived at his residence in Chennai on Thursday. India's celebrated off-spinner Ravichandran Ashwin revealed his decision to retire from international cricket moments after the Brisbane Test ended in a draw on Wednesday. The Chennai-born player expressed his thoughts and said that it is a great sense of relief and satisfaction for him after taking a call to say goodbye to international cricket.
To be honest, it's emotional for a lot of people. It will be emotional, maybe it will sink in, but for me, personally, I think it's a great sense of relief and satisfaction. It's very instinctive, yeah. It's been running in my head for a while, but it's very instinctive. I just felt on day 4 and just called it on day 5. I'm going to play for CSK, and don't be surprised if I try and aspire to play for as long as I can. I don't think Ashwin the cricketer is done. I think Ashwin the Indian cricketer has probably called it time. That's it. Sort
of a heartbreak for cricket fans. Now in soccer, Spanish club Real Madrid won the Intercontinental Cup after beating Mexico's Pachuca 3-0. And for Real, Mbappe, Rodrigo and Vinicius Jr. registered in the score sheet. It was a largely one-sided contest, and with Real doing just enough and never looking likely to cede control despite allowing their opponents to threaten occasionally from counter-attacks. With this title, Madrid coach Ancelotti became the manager with most titles in the club's history, with a total of 15 trophies. In women's cricket, India will take on West Indies in the third and final T20 in the 3-match series in Navi Mumbai on Thursday. With the series tied 1-1, the third match is the virtual decider, with India hoping to make amends at home after the recent disappointment of losing an ODI series in Australia. India won the opening encounter by 49 runs. However, West Indies bounced back in the second match, defeating the hosts by 9 wickets. And 7 months after their hugely popular undisputed heavyweight boxing fight, Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury are set to face off once again in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on Saturday. Both boxers held public workouts ahead of the highly anticipated rematch. May 19 fight earlier this year saw Usyk become the first undisputed heavyweight boxing champion of the world in 24 years. However, the Ukrainian lost the undisputed crown after he vacated one of his 4 world title belts a few weeks later. India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platform. Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you also want great content for free, then download Waves today. That's all for this edition of DD Indian News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.